Welcome to Generation Dragons, episode 60. Holy crap, Steve, we're at episode 60. How are you?
Tremendous, my man. I'm doing well. What about you?
I'm a little rough from the weekend, but hey, what can you do? Ding, ding.
Cheers.
Both kids are sick. I'm rough. It's awesome. It's been a great start of the week. But anywho, not here to talk about the garbage that is, when your children are sick and can't go to childcare. Sorry, guys. My voice, I threw up a lot over the weekend and lost my voice because I was throwing up so much. So
your boyfriend
it's only
was
coming
rough
back to
on
me.
your throat. We get it. It's okay.
Yeah. I couldn't keep water down. I even tried, I was like, you know what? I'm going to even try Mountain Dew to see if just the flavor or something. I mean, it tasted delicious on the way back up, though. So I was okay.
A lot of vial coming out that tasted a little sweet.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. It's the same color.
Yeah, exactly right. But it was good. I mean, it was good. I say that, but the worst part is, and I say this nicely, is that I remember the evening. So I drank too much, but then didn't get that drunk. Anyways, anywho, not here to talk about our weekends of yonder, our days past, future days of future past. Yeah, days of future past.
Days of the future past.
Yeah, we're here to talk about the top. Well, what we think most significant game devices are in history, and a little bit of why we think so. Steve, I know you have kind of crafted this list here, and I appreciate it very much. But before we go, before you go off to number one, I kind of want to jump in and say number one. And we don't mean this in the list, but I think this is probably the most impactful because it if it wasn't for it, we probably wouldn't be.
So before you go on to your
stuff.
Item, I'm guessing whatever you're about to say is not in my list.
No, it's on your list. It's on your list, but I don't like where you have it ranked in your list. Let's just say that. So
okay, gotcha. That's fair enough. So to be frank, I didn't actually put it in.
Oh, you were just putting numbers down. Oh, okay.
I put them in as I thought it.
Right.
It's sort of in order. It's the way my brain processed what I thought was most important.
Right.
But,
well,
Steve,
look at it. I don't like to say this to you, but sometimes I have to. Your brain sometimes isn't right. And the number one...
I would disagree with that, but okay.
The number one most significant console is definitely the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Now you're playing with power.
And what you have on number one
I definitely disagree with that. It's up there.
You have on number one here did bring game consoles into, people's homes
mainstream,
for the most part, mainstream. Right. But then as soon as that, it just got flooded, it almost collapsed the industry in North America and Europe we'll say for the most part too.
Well, right? more NA for sure. But yeah.
So I would say number one is the Nintendo Entertainment System. It's what brought back to life the video game industry in the home consoles.
I won't disagree with you there.
And then, your number one number two for me is the Atari 2600. And dude, you can talk.
Have you played Atari today?
About it because I never had one because I was way younger than that. But
that was what I grew up on in the beginning, anyway. And I'll go back to what you just said with the NES, bringing things back. That to me, it was the ultimate. Once you got to 8-bit, I remember trying to sell it to my parents to buy it, and being like, it's like a cartoon you control because Atari did not look like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to it. Everyone had an Atari that at some point in my generation.
Right.
And I remember my dad bringing the Atari to a bar to get free drinks because he'd let people play it. Right.
Nice.
So he'd bring it in, bring some games, and then he would just get a free tab because he was doing the bar service in turn they'd do him a service. But yeah, the Atari I played to death until I was about 11-ish.
Makes sense.
Nintendo. It was,
Makes sense, Steve.
Nintendo. Maybe it's 10. However old you are in grade 6 is when I got my Nintendo. So
the NES was 86. So let's say it makes sense, right? Say 10 or 11 years old.
Technically 85, but that was more of a test market. But before it got to the masses, 86, and then it was like probably 2 years, a year and a half before I got it.
There you go. You got it when I was born, Steve. How about that?
All right.
So talking about the Atari, the only Atari I know, the Atari 400. And actually, I don't even know that. I don't even know that.
That's a steal of a find that you got.
Well, again, we've talked about this in the past, but I have to say thanks to my wife and her family who had that sitting in a box in the garage. And then as soon as you turned it back on, it still worked. So, first it was the Dreamcast all back in the day, way back when.
That's what made you fall in love with her. She got you a Dreamcast, right?
She got me a Dreamcast. That was sitting under her bed.
Remember, what kind of rating is the show? You're sitting under her.
Yeah, it was sitting under her bed, and she only had a Super Nintendo and Mario Kart, which also helped too. Or Super Mario Kart, or Mario Kart, Super Mario Kart, Mario Kart. Come on, Clint. Yeah, number 3, and again, this list, like you said, Steve, everyone's interpretation. It's not really ranking 1 to 10. I mean, other than for me and for you for Atari and NES, but for me. Another one up on this one is the Game Boy.
Game Boy, only from Nintendo. Now you're playing with power, portable power.
And the Game Boy being able to, no one has caught up to the Game Boy. Now, there is something else on this list that we'll probably touch base on a little bit later. They could say caught up to the Game Boy, or has caught up to the Game Boy.
The Virtual Boy.
Exactly. Exactly, with its 8 batteries of D's or whatever the hell it was.
Headache-inducing 3D.
But Game Boy. You had the Game Gear. You had the PSP. You had the Vita. Nothing. You had all of the Atari.
The Lynx. One that brought it to the masses.
Yeah,
it was affordable and interchangeable. One of the first devices that was interchangeable that didn't need a cable, really. It came out around the same time as the others, like the Game Gear, the Lynx actually came out in '89 with the Game Boy. But really, before that, all anyone knew was those Tiger Electronic handhelds. One game, they'll jump around the LED screen. So, but anyway, that thing brought it to the masses.
Yeah, and it's
survived a grenade, man. There's that one in whatever museum that survived a grenade did. Like, it was crazy good. Anyway,
what's crazy with the Game Boy on that one is that it was released in 89, 90?
Yeah, 89.
And I still remember playing freaking Pokemon on an OG Game Boy in the 98, right?
Were you like this?
Pretty much. We'd all stand out in the middle of the field while one of us playing Game Boy. While we're playing Pokemon.
The thing about it is, you could take it anywhere. You didn't have to worry about the thing dying. I know in previous videos and stuff I've said with my Game Gear, I could just plug it into the car, but that was until I was an adult.
Yeah.
So as a kid, the Game Boy was my way of playing portably.
Yeah.
It changed the gaming industry and the fact that the masses liked it. Everyone loved Tetris. Anyone could play it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you were getting your NES experience on the go. Not quite, but that's kind of
but pretty much close to it. All right, let me grab the next one. I'm gonna. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I'm gonna say the Xbox. It was very, very influential. It's the first system that had a hard disk built in and a network adapter, and I think that ultimately changed gaming from the day.
Take a step back, good sir.
Or the Dreamcast.
No, yes,
but it wasn't built in. You had to buy it separate.
Park your ass back on that couch, good sir, Steve. The Dreamcast had the old Beastie 56K modem built into it, so you could play.
You had to pull it. Oh, you're right. It came with it.
With it.
But it was
But yes, a hard drive.
but
You're
the
right.
the hard drive and a LAN network, not a 56K, and the service that came right after.
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah.
it was the first console that I LAN linked up with Halo, multiple consoles. Before that, I was playing something like Star Wars versus X-Wing on my PC kind of thing with friends. And ever since then, it's just been a standard. They brought that to the market, I think. Dreamcast tried to.
Yeah, with SegaNet.
It was ahead of its time. Well, that was even before SegaNet would have been Genesis and all that, and they
try to rehash it back, and it was $22 a month. I only know this because I've been reading my most recent Dreamcast magazines from 2000. From 2000. We're talking about that, right? Like, and you're right. I mean,
it's the first one that did it successfully, right?
Yeah, this is where it's the toss-up because, and again, we're not. I mean, I don't want to say a list, but I would put a PS2 over the Xbox only based because it's what got DVD players into
I have the PS2 in there.
Hands. Oh yeah, for sure. And that's what I mean, right? Like, so that's where it's the toss up between those two, where Xbox took it towards.
I had that exact decision. Yeah. You know, do I spend $4 or $5, whatever it was back then, $400 or $500 on a DVD player? I think it was 3 or 4. Or do I spend a little bit more and get a PS2? Which has a better DVD player than most out there anyway. The only thing I remember having this conversation with a friend, well, you can't see what track it's on and there's no LED display. And I'm like, really? How often do you check that when you're watching the game, watching a movie? Sorry.
Yeah.
So,
you can't just press up on your fucking D-pad.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, excuse my language. That's gonna have to be a peep. Mark that down, Steve. Mark that down.
I'll figure it out. I have to listen.
So the next one on my list would be the PS2. Just exactly that because of the DVD.
Because we just talked about.
Exactly. And I even tie that in with the PS3 because I worked at Best Buy when PS3s were released. EB and then Best Buy, and that was a big push. We were selling HD TVs and PS3s like left, right, and center because the PS3 had the built-in Blu-ray where the Xbox 360 didn't at the time.
Yep,
right?
they had the add-on for the HD, which never took off. But PS had it built right in, and that was a game changer.
Yeah. The next one here on this...
That was the 360, here. Actually, yes. I want to go on a tangent a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
So, with... I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. So, I remember when you're talking about, like, with things being built in. I've been wanting to talk about this somehow. So, this is kind of me doing a stretch here. But when the Saturn launched and the PlayStation 1 launched... I hated that $2.99 speech by Sony.
$2.99.
Because I was working at a game store then, 16 years old, and be like, that's horseshit. You still have to buy a memory card and a game. With the Saturn, it already has built-in memory, and you get a game, which was Virtua Fighter at the time. And so if you do the math, you were paying more for a Sony, period, because you needed a memory card, and you needed a game. And I was just like, so mad at that. Like, so Sega, you could have done so much better with your marketing. You just let it slide. Anyway, off on a tangent. Back to what you were saying.
The list, no, but I hear you. I mean, Sega dropped the ball on a lot of things at the later dates, but pour one out into my mouth for Sega.
Yeah. All right, you pick the next one. Where are we at?
Yeah, talking about Sega Genesis.
Genesis does.
16-bit arcade graphics.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does.
16-bit arcade action.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis does.
16-bit arcade hits.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does.
What Nintendo?
Or the Mega Drive globally.
Yeah, globally, Mega Drive, Sega Genesis here in North America. I've heard the story why they called it the Genesis over Mega Drive, but I don't remember. I don't recall.
Somebody already had the copyrights here in NA, actually the US, not here, and so they couldn't use Genesis for a product.
Or in everywhere else.
No, here.
They couldn't use Mega Drive here. Yeah,
you could have used it in Canada, I think, because I think it was an American copyright. But they couldn't sell it as the Mega Drive in the US.
Right.
So in NA it became the Genesis, but everywhere else was the Mega Drive.
So talking about Sega and dropping the ball, I mean, you look at European Dreamcast and they have the blue swirl instead of the orange swirl. And that's the same kind of thing because a company had the copyright to the orange swirl in like Germany or something like that. Yeah. Anywho, yeah, the Genesis, that was what came in and, took over at one point, right? Everyone was excited, happy. It had its blast processor and all this great
and
stuff.
Genesis does when Nintendo.
Yeah. But then they started adding everything to it. And I think that's kind of what damaged their life. Great ideas. Again,
There's
if you look back,
communication issues between
Sega of Japan
and Sega of America. So that mentality there really hurt them, I think.
Yeah. There was it wasn't a shared front. It was they split it.
Zunky he was done with it after the whole 32X thing and all that crap, not knowing that the Saturn was coming out. They didn't even know about the Neptune project at the time and stuff.
Yeah. It's nuts. But the Genesis, everywhere you had you had Sonic, who is now a movie star.
Not wrong.
I just got my Sonic 2 movie in the mail just today, Steve. Just today.
Really?
Just today, yeah. I pre-ordered the 4K. So
nice.
You grew up through the Genesis more so than I did. I mean, I was another beep there. I was a wee boy.
It's gonna be a hard edit.
Beep beep beep. I was a wee boy when I got my first Genesis. I was only probably grade 4, grade 5, maybe. I think maybe grade 3 when I got my first Genesis, and I loved it to death. Sega, as you know, and everyone else who's been listening or watching us for the last 60 episodes knows that I love Sega. What about you, Steve, on the Genesis? Mega Drive.
It was the weird console at first, right? I was a Nintendo boy back then. It's hard to believe that now because I'm such an Xbox guy and that, but obviously no Xbox at the time. But and then even Sony before Nintendo now. But it was the weird console at first. Like it was all like the people that can't get a Nintendo get a Genesis is my mentality back then. I was one of those boys on the schoolyard that was like, "You have a Genesis or a Sega?" I think they called it. I was like, "You have a Sega? Oh, loser," kind of thing.
Must be poor.
Yeah, because it came out so early compared to, and then a friend of mine, she had a Genesis at her house, and she wasn't a gamer. It was like something that her dad bought or whatever, and I was like, played Altered Beast, I think, for the first game I ever played. I was like, whoa, so still on Nintendo back then. And then eventually, when I got my first job, the first thing I bought was a Super Nintendo. But not long after, I bought a Genesis. And that's why I was saying in our last video, my first Genesis was Genesis 2.
Yeah.
And then I was all hooked in Genesis after that. Ended up buying like the Sega CD and then the 32X. I think my parents got as a gift for Christmas, probably because it was like lame ass cheap at the time with them getting rid of it. But yeah, I didn't become a Genesis fan, a Sega fan until later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But not much. I mean, looking at time now, it was probably like 2 years after.
Yeah.
Or so.
Felt like generations after.
It did. It did. But loved it. Played it a lot. Sega CD threw me through a loop, which pushed me into Panasonic 3DO era and stuff like that. But anyway, that's a story for another day.
All right, so next on our list, Steve. Yeah, next on our list is the PC. And I mean, I have to put
Yeah.
PC on. Like you had put it on it, and I didn't even think about it. But I mean, if it wasn't for the PC, we wouldn't have
Who would
video
make
games.
the games?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, we wouldn't.
But
It wouldn't have been way back. Yeah, I wouldn't have my sweet Atari 400 with the keyboard built into it, or a Commodore 64,
I
or
never
any
would
of
have
that.
played Leisure Suit Larry.
No,
Oh,
Command
then,
and Conquer,
Warcraft,
Warcraft. Oh man, Soldier of
Full
Fortune.
Throttle. There you go.
That was the last.
Actually-
That last episode was the game I was talking about on PC. Soldier of Fortune.
Nice.
That's what it was.
But Jedi Academy for me, and Outcast.
Yeah, Outcast. Yeah.
They're like Doom and Quake, and like there's just so many games I played back then. I play a lot of PC games in the window of in between, I'd say 96, 7 to 2001 or so. Like even games like Final Fantasy 7 I played on PC.
Oh yeah,
The Xbox is what brought me back to the console, but before that I was more of a PC gamer after the 16-bit generation.
yeah.
So I could say, I could say 32 because the 3DO and stuff like that. I was never an N64 guy.
Right. Oh, am I coming back yet? Am I frozen on your video, Steve?
You're frozen, yes. But
Okay,
you
well
look a lot better this way. Oh, did we lose your battery?
I'm still alive, Steve. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Well, let's just continue talking with the black screen because I believe it's Zoom that's causing this issue. The next
let's
problem
finish
is
the video, and if you're not showing up in the video, I'll just put a picture.
yeah, perfect. Yeah, put
right.
that picture we were talking about earlier up, Steve. Yeah, no, I mean for me the next one would be emulators, just to tie in with PCs, and what you have here is just that you're able to play games anywhere, or any old games are pretty much built right.
100%. Emulators are huge. We wouldn't have our arcades without them. I wouldn't have my game system in the van without them. It just it changed. Really changed the industry, not the industry as much as the other things, but it really became an option that no one had before.
Yeah.
And now it's everywhere.
100%. I mean, and the last on the list is the arcade.
When you walk into an arcade, any arcade, come with an open mind. An open mind is easy to expand.
This is a gratifying experience, source of self-esteem, enjoyment in life.
You have been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier.
Right, Steve? Like, you definitely played.
Can't get that experience anywhere else but an arcade, but I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, you experienced the arcade more in its prime than I ever did. You're right. I got the ass end of the arcade back in the early to mid 90s.
Insert joke here.
But it's only in North America where it's like that. You go, when I was in Japan in 2019, we walked into multiple arcades with multiple games going and stuff like that. And it makes you wonder what kind of caused the issue, but that's the whole idea behind Atari. How to bring home the arcade experience, right? That's what the whole goal was. You play.
I was going a different way. Yep.
You play Altered Beast. You play any of the old, especially Sega games. Play any of the old Sega games. Outrun on your old consoles. They were just freaking looking for quarters, but you're playing it on your TV. Like that's your extra life. That's all it was. But anyways,
it goes back to my dad bringing the Atari to the bar.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, at this point, I think we can wrap it up.
Good sir.
But before we do, out of the top 10, your biggest pick is the NES as the number one game changer?
Yeah.
I'd have to say the Atari.
So that's generational gaps. That's why
is what I was just
millennials are better than Gen X's, Steve. That's why.
That is a story for a show we should do, actually.
Yeah. Just remember, Steve, you're the ones that are raising these soft Gen Zs. Just remember that, okay?
My kids, they actually do shit that, well, I'm not even going to say that.
Yeah.
Monetized or yelled at or cut down for saying.
All right.
They know their places.
We'll keep our opinions to ourselves. Steve, good sir. As always, keep collecting.
Wow, this is backwards, but keep gaming.
Keep safe.
Keep safe.
My everything is delayed on my side.